Technically, I was never alive, but I appreciate your concern. Welcome to Primary Technology, the show about the tech news that matters. This week, OpenAI had a massive funding round, one of the largest in history, but Apple chose to back out. We're going to go into that, a rumored October Apple event with M4 Max, plus what is happening with Apple software. More websites are putting up paywalls, and Jason did a full self-driving test for over 250 miles. This episode is brought to you by Audio Hijack and you, the members who support us directly. I'm one of your hosts, Stephen Robles, and joining me as always, my friend Jason Aiton. How's it going, Jason?
I am good. The robot did not kill me, so that's good.
So the quote at the beginning, did you recognize the movie?
Well, I'm assuming it's iRobot.
It is iRobot.
Okay.
Yes, I did. I mean, OpenAI, talking about full self-driving, which you survived that. So yeah, iRobot. That was it. All right, we have a bunch of news, and we always say it's going to be quick, and then we go for a long time. So we're going to get right into it. But you got some other phones with you today. It seems like you've got more phones. YouTube.com/@PrimaryTechShow if you'd like to see. But Jason's going to hold up something. What do you?
I actually have. Well, this could be fun because I have a lot of iPhones sitting on my desk right now. But the thing I keep thinking about over the last week, because Apple did send me some review units, and by the way, the iPhone 16, fantastic. It's the best base level iPhone they've ever made. I mean, it should be because it's the most recent one they've ever made. But even just compared to the Pros, compared to everything else, it is fantastic. But
just to that point, I've seen. Sorry.
That's okay. That's all right.
I saw Federico Viticci and David Pierce at The Verge. I think they're officially going non-pro this year because the 16s are that good. And they actually look really good. So anyway, go ahead.
And they look really good, which brings up an important point, which is I don't understand how Apple thinks these two phones are the same color.
Jason is holding up the blue iPhone from last year, the 15, and the blue
and the ultramarine blue. This is amazing.
Maybe best color. Ultra's in the name, so it's ultramarine.
It is the best color Apple's ever put on an iPhone.
It looks really good. My mom just got that color iPhone. It looks amazing in person. Can you hold up last year's iPhone 15? Because my wife actually helped me make my most viewed tweet ever when she said, "Is this hospital white?"
Yeah.
That's what she thought that color was.
It doesn't even, it actually looks closer to the natural titanium, than it does to the blue phone from this year. Like, come on.
Listen, Apple changed the ink cartridge. That was the deal.
They bought a brand new printer.
They got that laser. Is the laser printer? Yeah, laser. Because I have an inkjet. Inkjet, you got to buy ink every other page. Laser that's you buy the toner. Yeah. Anyway, so the new phone. That's very nice. I have one day to decide: am I going to keep the 16 Pro Max, or should I go down to the 16 Pro? And I'm very close to saying maybe 16 Pro, maybe in white. But I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do.
I don't know. It's a big phone. I have one of those too in the desert brown.
Yeah, what do you think of that desert titanium now that you have it in front of you?
I'm glad it's a review unit. And it's not the one that I'm paid for. It's cool. Actually, I think the sides look amazing.
The sides are cool.
The back, I'm less enthusiastic about. And I do tend to use my phone without a case. So it does matter to me. I feel like this is definitely the phone you get if you know anything about color trends, which I don't. Or if you want to have the phone that everyone will know is the new one.
Well, thankfully, I am both a fashionista and I like people to know how the newest phone. So that's why I get Desert Titanium. No, I don't know. I saw a video. I forgot who it was from, but he went through all the colors, and the white one this year is like stark white. It looks like more white, and it actually looks really good. But anyway, there's big news this week. But that's iPhones. We have 3 5-star reviews this week. We were also in the top 100 tech podcasts in 4 countries this past week: the USA, Great Britain, Canada, and Australia, which is awesome. So thank you all for doing that. And 5-star reviews from KE9 Fox from the USA. Olivier111 started listening a month ago and loves the show. It's always nice to hear with people like discovering the show recently. You know what I mean? There's people joining all the time. And Nate Eregion, I feel like he's starring in the Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power, maybe? Isn't that a place in Lord of the Rings?
I've never heard of Nate, but
Eregion. It's a very cool name. But he says that we help make tech news understandable and accessible, and that's what we aim to do. So that's wonderful. Thank you for those. Give us a 5-star review, rating and review in Apple Podcasts if you like. Get a shout out at the top of the show. And let's jump into it. OpenAI, They had a massive funding round this past week. It was rumored, we had covered it in past episodes, but they raised $6.6 billion to build larger AI models, which means they are valued, the Shark Tank math, at $157 billion. And this was led by Thrive Capital. And the goal is because they're trying to train more AI models, especially reasoning AI models. And apparently that's expensive. And here in the Verge article, it talks about that $100 billion models are not far behind. That was a quote from the Anthropic CEO, Dario Amodei. And apparently $100 billion to train an AI model. I don't know what is so expensive that it needs to be trained on. Do they just put the money in
it's like an ATM machine, or like a casino machine. It's like a slot machine. You just feed it in.
I was just thinking that, or like the ticket machines at like Fun Central or whatever, and just sucks up the money. I don't know, but tons of money. So that is the funding round they got. I did look up other large funding rounds because $6.6 billion is apparently the biggest funding round a company has had. And XAI, back in May of this year, had $6 billion, so pretty close. That's Elon Musk's AI company, but OpenAI is at $6.6 billion. And then under that, earlier this year, actually, Waymo, the company Jason can't stand, that makes self-driving cars, it's $5 billion. And then Epic Games, actually, $1.5 billion invested by Disney earlier this year, back in February, which is interesting.
Yeah.
So a lot of money going around. OpenAI's funding round. Have you tried the O1 model, the reasoning model? I think maybe we talked about this last week.
I did. I've done it a couple times on purpose and then a couple times on accident.
You forgot to choose the different model.
I forgot to switch. Yeah, I have. So it has done some things it didn't need to do. But I want to play a quick game with you while we're talking about this OpenAI. Yeah. I'm going to name a company.
Please.
I want you to tell me if you think it's going to be bigger or smaller than OpenAI based on this current valuation. Okay?
Okay, that's good.
Disney.
Oh, shoot. Well, but I don't have knowledge of like how.
Just guess, bigger or smaller?
I'm going to say Disney is bigger.
Okay, you're right. That's correct. Okay. Disney's market cap is about $170 billion.
Just over.
Goldman Sachs.
Smaller.
Yeah, well, Goldman Sachs is $155 billion, and this will be bigger. How about Lowe's? Like the home improvement place.
Yes, Lowe's. I want to say lower, but I feel like you've thrown this in here to trick me. But I'll say lower.
Yep, you're correct. Okay, one more.
Lower. Okay.
Uber.
Higher.
Nope. Uber's going to also be smaller. So they are valuing OpenAI as a larger company than Lowe's, AT&T, Goldman Sachs,
yeah,
Uber. It is kind of mind-boggling. They're putting it in the same category as these other companies like Disney, Verizon, Comcast. Like, these are companies that have been around for a very long time, and we know what they do, and we know what people will pay for their services. And right now, the interesting thing is nobody's paying for, not no one, but people are not paying nearly enough money for OpenAI's services as what it's costing the company, right?
Right.
And so that's why they're raising all this money. It is really expensive to run these, models, to train them, because in all of this money is like compute. Did you see the story not that long ago that they are powering up 3 Mile Island, one of the reactors that they shut down a couple years ago, and Microsoft is. Microsoft is going to just they're paying to have it turned back on, and they're going to just use all that energy to power their cloud computing for AI. That's how much energy is required. Yeah, it is like crazy.
Oh my goodness. Well, and a couple other interesting points of, at least this is from the Verge article, but apparently Sam Altman has asked investors not to invest in competing AI companies like XAI and Anthropic, which they call it a rare move here. I feel like that's not usually something a company does, right? A CEO can't be like,
well, the reason they say that it's a rare move is if you think about like how these funding rounds work, you usually have a principal, and I think in this case it's Thrive Capital, that basically works with OpenAI to say, yeah, this is how much money we're going to raise, how much is it going to be worth. But then Thrive Capital, which is investing like $1 billion, goes out and finds other investors to be a part of it, right? And so that was, for a while that included potentially Apple. We can talk about that in a minute. It included Microsoft, NVIDIA, all these companies, plus a bunch of other like investment groups, venture capitalists, and they put all that money together, and that's where the investment goes. And so it is hard to then say to all of those downstream piles of money, you can't take any of that money and put it somewhere else, because a lot of them, typically what you would want to do is, if you are just trying to hedge your bets, you would want to invest in multiple different places, right? But what OpenAI is saying, no, we not only want to take your money, we don't want you to. So they're like trying to foreclose investment in other places as well. And it is really interesting. Like, this is a very competitive move by OpenAI. You mentioned the list of previous large rounds of funding, and you notice that 6.6 billion is just above 6 billion, which was the previous highest raise, which was XAI, right? The AI part of whatever the conglomerate that Elon Musk is putting together to turn Twitter into something else. I don't know, some constant stream, because it was not bad enough that Twitter was a constant stream of just sewage. Now it's going to be AI generated sewage.
I don't want to get off on a tangent here, but I'm still on X, formerly known as Twitter. And I will say the algorithm for the For You feed is really changing. It feels a little bit like it's going towards that World Star feel. I don't know if you know what that is.
World Star.
But it's where you basically see videos of people fighting in fast food places and angry people in public transit. And it's I don't know why I'm seeing this. I don't follow anybody like this. But anyway, the other thing that was interesting, the OpenAI has to transition to a for-profit company, which up to this point it had been like a nonprofit running the profit arm or whatever. And if they don't turn into a for-profit restructure, then investors can actually ask for their money back. So if OpenAI doesn't restructure within 2 years, and this was reported by Axios, investors can ask for their money back. So it is clear OpenAI is going to move to that for-profit model very soon, and they're going to try and make iRobot with this. I mean, they really think they're going to make reasoning models. And I will say, one of the jokes about ChatGPT 4.0 when it first came out was it doesn't know how to spell strawberry. If you ask it how many R's are in the word strawberry, it would tell you 2, and it didn't know, it couldn't count them. And I don't know if this is a big advance, but if you ask the O1 model, it knows how many R's are in strawberry. So billions of dollars put to good work there to know how to spell strawberry. But namely, as you were saying, it was rumored that Apple might have been in that funding round, which Apple Intelligence, which should be coming this month. We're in October right now, Jason, and Apple Intelligence should be launched with 18.1 to the public sometime. And ChatGPT, not launching this month, that integration should be coming soon, likely in 18.2 or 3. And so those rumors were that Apple will be an investor as well. They were not in this funding round for OpenAI. So, yeah, tell me about that.
Well, I think that there's a couple of things. One, I suspect that it was always going to be sort of an outlier for Apple to join this, because they just don't do this sort of thing. They will buy companies and they don't talk really about it, but they're generally companies you've never heard of, right?
Right.
But they are companies that end up playing, well, except for Beats. That was one that you've heard of, and now they make cases. Fine.
They make phone cases.
I mean, the reason they bought Beats was because they needed a streaming service. And at the time, Beats really had the only real competitor to Spotify, right? The Beats Music app. And so they turned that into the Apple Music app, right? And then they also had, whatever, Jimmy Iovine and
Jimmy Iovine.
Whatever. I'm on the payroll for a while, right? You got to hang out at Apple Park, which is a pretty cool gig. Yeah, Dr. Dre. Exactly. Yeah. And so I did hear on a podcast, I don't know who, it might have been connected, but they wanted to know, did they ever replace him? And does that person's business card just say, Steven Robles, Dr. Dre? Is that the name of a title that they have there somewhere? I don't know. But
is he a medical doctor? No, just kidding.
I'm not really sure how that works, but I guess you can just pick whatever you want. Yeah. I don't know. We'll call you Dr. Steve. But I think that it was always going to be kind of an outside chance that Apple would be a part of this. But I also think that Apple is such a conservative company when it comes to this kind of thing that I don't think that the fact that OpenAI wanted it to be exclusive, I think pushed Apple farther out. OpenAI sees itself as a position where it can demand pretty favorable terms for itself. It's a huge valuation. $157 billion, like we just talked about, is larger than a lot of current public companies. And Apple probably had just got to a point where it's this is just a little bit too spicy for what we're interested in. And you have to think they still really want Google to get on board with making Gemini available as a part of the let's call it the extended Apple Intelligence universe, right? Where you can use Apple Intelligence on device,
Right.
you can use their private cloud compute, and then you can also send stuff to ChatGPT when Siri gets really confused. Well, they don't want that to be limited to just ChatGPT. They want Claude in there. They want Gemini in there. And I imagine that was going to get a lot more complicated if they stuck $1 billion into OpenAI.
I'm curious that timeline. I mean, how slow Apple Intelligence has been rolling out now. We don't even see OpenAI integration at the moment. That might not even be coming until next year, 2025. Gemini and Anthropic integration, I mean, maybe iOS 19? I mean, it's got to be a long way out. But can I just say, we've talked about this before, I think on last week too, just how like Apple Intelligence is being marketed with the iPhone 16. I was listening to a podcast last week. It was a techie podcast that has dynamically inserted ads. Twice I heard an ad with Snoop Dogg and somebody from T-Mobile. And the ad was Snoop Dogg saying, go get your iPhone 16 with Apple Intelligence at T-Mobile today. He said it twice, like those exact words. And then at the very end of the ad, there's like the really fast-talking disclaimer. And they were like, Apple Intelligence available next month or available in October or whatever. And it's like, this feels like that's the kind of stuff you hear on like TV infomercials when you have like, or like medicine and drug type commercials. And to hear that with an Apple ad, like it was so bizarre because I can't remember a time in the past where it was like, you buy this product now and Apple is saying iPhone 16 with Apple Intelligence, buy it today. And you don't get it. If someone buys an iPhone 16, like my mom got a new iPhone 16, she upgraded from an iPhone 12. There is no Apple Intelligence on that device. I'm not putting her on a beta, and most people don't do that. And it was so bizarre to hear that ad twice in the same podcast episode. Did you hear that same ad?
I've heard it multiple times. In fact, when we were talking about the ads last week, maybe, that was the one I actually kept thinking about. I kept thinking it was a TV ad, but I think I actually kept hearing it on podcasts. But yeah, Snoop's trying to get you on the AI bandwagon. And I think it is, I think it's interesting. I actually think, though, that it's possible that Gemini might come sooner than we think, because I feel like this is actually a relatively easy. I mean, we're just talking about like an API connection, and Gemini obviously has that available at this point. And so it's really just a matter of like the business terms, right? Yeah. Those people getting together. I think there's also the reality that Apple might have just looked at OpenAI and was like, that is a train wreck. Like, Apple is pretty averse to chaos factories, and OpenAI is just like, I mean, seriously, like Tim Cook does not want to be spending Thanksgiving this year calling up board members at OpenAI saying, please stop firing CEO. Like, right? Like, especially because everybody who reports to the CEO generally has left in the last couple of months. It's like, I just don't think Tim Cook wants to spend his Thanksgiving that way.
No, he's got to find out where to put all the Vision Pros laying around his office. Get these out of here.
I thought it was MagSafe pucks.
Oh, that's right. That's what it was. MagSafe pucks. That's right. Oh, that was a year ago. That feels like a decade ago when Sam Altman was ousted.
It was the worst vacation of my life.
Time so weird. Anyway, that's the OpenAI funding round. So I will be following it, and if any models start taking over humanity, you'll hear it here first. As long as we can still upload a podcast.
Yep.
All right, we have to talk about Apple software. I don't know what is happening recently, but I'm going to pull up a bunch of 9to5 Mac articles here because iPadOS 18, that software update that was supposed to come out several weeks ago, came out for iPhones, still not on M4 iPad Pros. If you didn't get it the moment it was released, which I did, of course, and it has not bricked my M4 11-inch iPad Pro yet, but iPadOS 18 is still not released to the public. If you are on 17 and you go to the settings general software update, you can't get it. There's no iPadOS 18 available yet due to some bug. Probably there were new betas yesterday, at least for public betas in 18.1, but the public release of 18 for the iPad still not there. There's weird watch bugs. WatchOS 11.1 beta 3 were bricking devices or freezing devices, and they had to roll that back. That's not great. There was a weird weather bug. This is Zach Hall from 9to5 Mac, where he and others were getting warnings about excessive heat in California, even though he doesn't have any location of California like in his weather app. So it's just a rogue excessive heat warning that iPhone users were getting. What is happening? The software, Jason. And I complained about this. I know people thought I was like making something up or something. I don't know. Did you see my post about the space on the bottom of the?
Yes. Let's get to that in just a second.
Okay, go
I'm
ahead.
writing down reminder to contact Chance Miller at 9to5Mac and see if they'll sponsor this episode since we just went through like 3 other articles.
So you mentioned
But-
3 articles.
But the
Yes.
the one thing I was going to just clarify, you said this, but people may have missed it. We're only talking about M4 iPad Pros at this point.
Right.
If you have any other iPad, iOS 18 is available, which actually makes it more weird. Like, what
This
did
is
they do to
strange.
the M4s that they like put some sort of like self-destruct kill switch? It's like Mission Impossible. There's a kill switch in iPad.
Some with the chip. The chip,
I don't
guess,
know.
the M4 chip. 'Cause
It's
it's the
just-
only Apple device with that.
Yeah, and so I think that at this point they're probably just waiting for 18.1 to come out, right? Like it's like why would if it's going to come out in a week, don't put 18 back out and then just release this new one, because the two things, it's like we fixed the bug, let's not even bother fixing it in there. Let's just not have people load it. But they didn't say anything about it.
Said
That's the
nothing.
part that's super weird about it, is they just didn't say. And at least the watch one, which I think is bad, anytime you put a piece of software on your device and it bricks it, that's not good. It is at least a beta. Like it's a little
Yeah,
bit
that
more
was
forgivable for a beta to like I've had betas, not recently, but I've had betas brick devices before. Like I actually put it was a couple of years ago where I put a beta on a device, and I could sit here and watch the battery just drain. Like it was not super fast, but like you could, and within 5 minutes it went from like 80% to 62%, and I'm like, yeah. So we just did a hard reset. We just like started over
gotta
on that.
start over.
But that's understandable on a beta, but it's really weird that they've pulled it and that they haven't said anything. And that's kind of what Apple does, and I really wish that they would just be a little bit more self-aware that that's not a good look, and maybe just extend a courtesy to your users and just explain why, and maybe even saying, hey, we had to bail on this. We can't tell you why, it's super secret, but we are going to release 18.1 and you'll be happier, I promise. Like
Something. It's just odd. And then I mean, not to mention other things like screen time, which is still buggy as whatever. I mean,
that's not a version 18 problem.
no, that's just everything. That's an everything issue. And I know this is not a bug, but I posted a picture of this saying like, why can't I fit another row of icons on my phone? People claimed that I was making this up, that I photoshopped the picture of the screenshot. And so I literally did a video showing if you remove, which you can go to settings, home screen, app library, and remove the search icon there. So you don't have that. And I only have one home screen, so I don't have any home screen dots. And then you do the large icons, which you can do in iOS 18. This is what your home screen looks like on a 16 Pro Max. And like, look at that space right there. Like, super bizarre. And then I was like, I wish I could put another row of icons in there. And I had so many people that were like, what do you expect to happen then if you add something back? It's like, well, what happens now when you have a full home screen and you add a widget? Stuff moves to another home screen.
I
Like, this
mean,
is
that
not
happens even if you don't add a widget. That's just like the default behavior of.
It's like and then I posted a video about the control center, which I redid my whole thing, and people have like done videos of like what it's like to try and customize control center, and it is herding cats, whatever other analogy, like stuff flies everywhere, and because the control center has like multiple pages, and the built-in pages like the smart home page or whatever like is already full. If you go and try to like move something on this first page and it jumps down, it'll jump down like 4 pages. Like it goes like way down. And it's not great. I am advocating, like, I don't know if you remember you could do this. Back in the day with iTunes and iPhone, you could actually manage your home screen on your Mac. Like you could actually move icons around with your mouse on your computer. I think they should bring that back, especially with all the customization options like Control Center. I understand iTunes is not a thing anymore. Finder's right there. Finder, that's how you sync your iPhone now. You back it up. You can customize things already. I don't know. Give us a better way to do that, or at least some kind of like, let us make changes without trying to reflow all the icons and then like a save. So you're not like stuff's not moving around constantly. Because honestly, it took me probably 30 minutes to get my control center. Like I knew what I wanted to put there, but it took me 30 minutes to get this just like set. And then even then this accessibility for hearing icon, it's a bug in the 18.1 beta, will not go away no matter what. It's just, I don't know. Something's going on, Jason. I don't know.
I am not one to ever say what I'm about to say.
Oh.
But Android does this fine. And the problem is like the whole did you see like the thread from Federico Vitici about how like he was trying to move things around. And the thing about the iOS 18 is you can put the app icons anywhere. I mean, there's still a grid, but they don't have to be continuous.
Right.
You can put them anywhere. So you put them somewhere, and then he has a video of trying to put another app somewhere, and all of a sudden the ones that should be sticky, and they just start to reflow.
They just move around.
It's like, what are you even doing? Like, how is this even a thing? Whereas, again, like I use an Android phone very rarely, and actually right now I'm not using it at all because I'm carrying the iPhone 16 and the 16 Pro. And because I'm trying to do a lot of photography with the 16 to sort of get a sense of how like the differences and stuff. But it's like on the Android phone, you just put things places and they just stay there, and they have no like awareness of anything else that's going on. And most Android phones look chaotic because you just put things wherever, but nothing wakes up and it's like, oh, you're moving something over there. And the point that Vitici made was now moving one app almost always requires you to move two apps. It's like, why the additional complexity? What is going on?
Yeah. I don't know. It's bizarre. So while these rumors have nothing to do with software, we might get new hardware though, where we can complain about other software.
Do you think there's an October event coming for sure?
So here's the deal. I mean, Mark Gurman's saying there's an event this year, or at least Apple's going to release a bunch of stuff. Mac rumors, everybody's saying October event. If our listeners remember and viewers last year, we had the Scary Fast event on October 30th, I think it was.
Yep,
like
day before.
Kind of spooky Halloween.
Yep.
Here's my hope. They do an October event, and the superlatives just keep getting more and more outlandish. So it was Scary Fast last year, and it was talking about the M3 Pro and M3 Max MacBook Pros. Now we have Frighteningly Fast this year.
Oh, you think they'll do it at the end of the month?
I don't know, but I think it would be a great kind of like multi-year gag where you have like Scary Fast, Frighteningly Fast, Terrifyingly Fast, and then I don't know what you go after that. Maybe they change it, but I think they should go for a hat trick. That's a sport term, Jason. Just so you know, I know some sport terms, mostly because it was in Connections a couple days ago. But a hat trick.
Except it wouldn't be a hat trick; it would be a three-peat.
Well, then what's a hat trick? I thought it was
if you score 3 goals in the same game, but you're talking about 3 different events happening.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
It's
the same
definitely
thing. 6 from one, half a dozen of the other. Anyway, I think there's going to be an event. YouTuber Andrew Edwards, he like posted a picture yesterday of him like holding a little invite card to an Apple thing, and he was like, I can tell you next week. And I was like, all right, buddy. So there's apparently some announcements coming. I think there's going to be an event. I don't know if it's going to be like everybody come to Apple Park. I think it'll probably be like the Scary Fast where maybe some people go to New York, which didn't you go there?
I was at the Scary Fast event in New York last year.
Yeah, you were at the Scary Fast event. So, they do the stream thing. They invite some reporters and creators. And there a lot of stuff they could announce. M4 Mac Mini, M4 iMac. That was actually one of the rumors as well. An updated iPad Mini, which there's been lots of rumors like Best Buy has a thing in their system for a new Mac Mini, a new SKU or whatever. Mark Gurman also said an iPhone SE, a redesigned iPhone SE, finally getting rid of the home button, could be coming as well. So I think so. And if the M4 launches like in a new iMac and a new redesigned Mac Mini, they could year over year improve the MacBook Pro, M4 Pro, M4 Max. Like you have said, the M3 chip and that's process. Apple's trying to get away from that quickly. So I think we're going to see it. I think we're going to see a bunch of hardware this month. What do you think?
I think it's possible. I don't think that anything's happening next week. I don't know what that picture is about.
I don't know about next week. Yeah.
But I think that like there would have been, if they were having an event, there'd be invites. Because even the Scary Fast event, like they sent out invites, like watch this thing next week or 2 weeks.
We got a couple weeks though. I mean, if they do it at the end of the month, they can send it out next week.
I just was responding to I can tell you about something next week. I have no idea what that would be about, but I don't think that it's an event. The Scary Fast event was actually weird because it's the first time that I've been to an Apple event where they essentially gave us an in-person presentation, right? A small group of people ahead of the streaming event, because the streaming event was like 7:00 at night or something, 8:00 at night.
Right. Yeah, it was late.
So they did an in-person thing in New York City where they went through all of the stuff. They let us see all the devices, which at that event were the MacBook Pros and the Mac or the iMacs, and then you could write your story. You're embargoed. And then they had like a watch party later on to watch the thing. I watched it on the airplane on the way home because I just wanted to go home.
I can't believe you didn't stay.
I literally just watched it on the airplane. It's fine. At that point, I didn't want to have to spend the night in New York and come home and waste another day. I just flew home. But anyway, it's all good. So that was interesting. So like, I don't know. It seems like Apple's trying some different things in terms of the way that they're doing events. Like that's totally fine. But yeah, I think we'll see I think we're going to see a Mac Mini. I think we'll probably. I don't think they're going to update the iMac this year. I just don't think it's going to even get the M4. I think it's like on an every other year thing. I just don't think it's a high enough volume product, and it doesn't sit in a place where people need the latest chip, right? The M3,
but if they don't want to keep making the M3 because of the process or whatever,
I think they have plenty. I think they have more than enough for
see.
another year's worth of
Okay,
iMacs is the thing.
Fair.
And
What
so
about
I actually think the one that is most likely, and I know there's no rumors about this, but with that philosophy, I feel like the MacBook Air needs to get updated. I understand they released them in the spring, the M3 ones, but it has to be their highest volume single SKU Mac, and so that would be the one I would think they'd want to get off of that process.
Interesting. Well, I don't think we're going to see these, but rumors like Mark Gurman is saying that home device, a HomePod with a screen, might be coming in the future. Again, I don't think that's this month. And then also, this is something Oura Ring recently announced, that they have a new smart ring model, updated design, new sensors for $349. Apple's not going to announce this month, but down the line with that smart home device with a screen, HomePod with a screen, a ring, maybe Apple will do a fitness ring. We talked about this like one of our first episodes because Samsung, the Galaxy Ring, is also out there.
Yeah,
people like these health smart rings. Have you ever tested one of these? Have a company ever sent you one?
I've never tested one of these. I wouldn't really. I don't like. And rings are a hard thing like to test because you got to size them and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I just think Apple should make something. It doesn't have to be a ring. Could be like a fitness band without a screen. But I think there are a lot of scenarios where people would prefer a $149 thing, $79 lower tech thing with just some sensors that's accumulating your fitness statistics without having to necessarily wear the watch. Because I do know there are a lot of people who would prefer to wear even a Garmin, maybe, but they want to take advantage of the Apple Health ecosystem and they would wear a band, or they're wearing a mechanical watch or whatever. So I feel like there is a space there for Apple to do something. It does sometimes feel like Apple wants to, it's like the Vision Pro is a perfect example. It's like if we can't do it all, we're not doing any of it. And so maybe they're like, no, the Apple Watch is everything. It gives you the screen, it gives you notifications, it gives you the sensors. And I'm like, yeah, but maybe there's some space. I think there's a market of people who would buy, I don't know if it's a ring, but either a band or a ring or something. So
yeah, well, and I heard Alex Heath, when he tested Meta's Orion AR glasses, I listened to the episode where he talked a lot about the wrist sensor that that you have to use to control it, and he was very bullish on how intuitive that was, how responsive it was, and he thought that might be a technology that is integrated into more of these kinds of headsets and glasses because it's a nondescript thing that can read your impulses, basically. And so, yeah, I think a device like that, either from Apple, whether it's a ring or a screenless wristband, yeah, maybe. Bring back the, all those accessories that used to exist for the iPod that were like lanyards and socks and things like that. Bring the fitness thing. Do you remember, I think this was before the Apple Watch. It might have been, it was like a partnership with Nike, and Apple sold like this little pill-shaped disc that you put in your shoe to track steps, and I think it's synced but only with the Nike app or whatever. And I'm not sure if it was like with the model iPod or with one of the first iPhones or something. You remember that the little Nike?
I do. I kind of remember it. Yeah, I never paid money for something like that, but
no, it was way back in the day. I'm not even gonna be able to find it because it was probably decades ago. So, but anyway, one last thing before we take a break and thank our wonderful sponsor this week, Audio Hijack. I do want to mention that Christian Seelig, he had made, the only and best YouTube app for Apple Vision Pro called Juno. And unfortunately, the Juno app has been removed from the App Store after Google said the YouTube app for Apple's headset, because it violated its API and trademark policies. This is really sad. If you're not familiar with Christian Seelig, he also made the Apollo app for Reddit, which was an extremely popular app. And once Reddit shut down third-party apps, that was gone. And now Juno, which I used on my Apple Vision Pro whenever I put it on my face because it was really the only good way to watch YouTube videos. It was a great app, worked well. That has now also been removed from the App Store. So I don't know if Christian is going for some record of how many apps you can get to a level of success that's like really successful and then all of a sudden get kicked out, which is nothing he's doing, but it's unfortunate. And of course, I still know a YouTube app on Apple Vision Pro. Like you can't, it's not there yet. YouTube has said it's in their roadmap, quote unquote, but we don't know how far away it is. So yeah, it really stinks for Christian Seelig.
Yeah, it's such a weird thing for YouTube to care about because first of all, according to Christian, he wasn't even using the YouTube API. Right, it was basically just a browser wrapper.
Right.
Like it's just showing you YouTube, so all the ads still play. Like this is the best case scenario for YouTube. It's like you didn't have to do anything, but people will continue using your service in this new platform. He's a much better, let's be honest, UX designer than anyone at Google is. Right, like this was a way better. Listen, I'm not kidding. That if YouTube puts out a YouTube app, it will not be this good. It just won't for the Vision Pro. It just won't because they don't. Google doesn't think about it that way, and they don't care that the way that. I mean, it's understandable that a huge, massive, one of the biggest companies in the world is never going to care about something like this as much as like a independent boutique developer would. But it's such a weird thing for them to get all riled up about and be like, no, you can't do this. Like, there's no confusion. He called it Juno. He didn't call it like Tube U or something like to try to like confuse you, right?
Right. The letter U, Tube.
It's just so weird.
It is weird. It's unfortunate. But I will say whatever Christian Seelig makes next, I will be on the lookout because he makes incredible apps. And so, yeah, support him if you ever see his apps come out. And it was a great app. I mean, it was one of the few reasons I put on the Apple Vision Pro, which I've now started tagging you whenever someone asks on Threads or Twitter, who still uses Apple Vision Pro? I say,
I've noticed.
At Jason 8. You see them now. Well, we still have big news about, I want to talk about paywalls, which might be coming to websites like CNN and The Verge. Amazon's going to be adding more ads to Amazon Prime. So we're going to get to all of that. But I would like to thank our amazing sponsor this week. They were actually our launch sponsor for the show. Our very first episode was sponsored by Rogue Amoeba, who makes Audio Hijack and Loopback, and they are sponsoring again. I could not be more happy because this is one of those sublime moments when a sponsor is like, I personally have used Audio Hijack for years. It recorded every podcast I've ever done. I use it literally every day to record my videos. Jason and I are literally using it right now to record the audio that I use for the audio version of this. But listen, Audio Hijack is the best way to just record audio on your Mac, and not just audio from microphones and audio inputs, but it is an incredibly powerful application. It does simple things like I actually have meters, little audio meters in the menu bar on my Mac so I can see my audio input, and I'm actually recording a backup of Jason's audio because you can pull audio from an application. So we're using Riverside and Brave right now to record our video, and I'm pulling that audio into Audio Hijack and recording a backup. And you can create those chains in there. Plus, there's lots of powerful features like adding EQ and volume effects. So if you want to live stream, you can actually do that with Audio Hijack as well. And it is just amazing. I also love how in the menu bar, you can now actually have all your sessions. And so I don't even have the Audio Hijack like window open on my computer. I just go up to my menu bar, click run on the primary text session right before we record, and we're recording. And it is just amazing. You can record all different formats, a WAV, MP3. It is amazing. I also use it for my movie podcast. Sometimes if I want to pull a little audio clip, I can do that with Audio Hijack too and record an audio file. Listen, it is just the best. And if you pair it with Loopback, if you've never used Loopback, powerful application if you're trying to do complicated setups with like audio interfaces and feeding audio back so you can monitor it in the room and even monitor with like AirPods and other things. Like, it is amazing. Jason, you use Audio Hijack all the time, right?
Yes, because you tell me I have to. I am a little bit disconcerted that you have to feel like you have to record a backup of my audio, but I understand.
No, I do it every. I record all the audio. I have never, because of Audio Hijack and because of how I use it, I don't knock on wood or whatever, I have never, ever lost a podcast episode or recording. Like, I have never, ever had to say it's gone. It's just never happened.
Yeah.
That's the reliability.
That's
all I'm saying.
Yeah.
Listen, you need to go try it. Amazing. Thank you for sponsoring. But here's what you do. Through the end of October, so you have this month, you can get 20% off Audio Hijack, Loopback, or their bundles by using the code TECHXX. You can actually see it right here on the page. You can also go to macaudio.com/primarytech. That link's in the show notes. 20% off Audio Hijack, any of their bundles or Loopback with the coupon code TECHXX. It is, I can't say enough good things about it. I absolutely love it. Use it all the time. Go try Audio Hijack. Download it today or macaudio.com/primarytech and use the promo code TECHXX. Our thanks to Audio, Hijack, and Rogue Amoeba for sponsoring this episode. They're the best. Thank you, Paul. They're the best. All right, Amazon is going to add even more ads. And you put this link in the note, and I tried to use the macOS Sequoia hide distracting items. The problem is there's nothing to read.
Well, see, I was just trying to set up the paywall conversation that we're going to have here in a couple minutes,
Perfect.
apparently. Yeah, I just saw that, realized that was a terrible link to share with you. There's actually a good Ars Technica article about it as well. But
Okay, I'll find it.
essentially...
Can I just say for our audio listeners, Jason put a link to the Financial Times, and when you go to this link, the headline is smaller in font than their limited time offer, save 40% on standard digital.
Yeah.
The headline is in smaller font that says Amazon to increase number of advertisements on Prime Video. And you see nothing else of this article. No preview, no lead, nothing. And then you just have to pay. And like the whole web page is their subscription offers and stuff like that. Like amazing Financial Times. Wow.
Yeah, I shouldn't. So when I clicked on it originally, I think I must have been in that weird Twilight Zone where it's like, oh, we'll let you see this article because apparently I had not opened a Financial Times article on this browser on this computer. Anyway, whatever. So the reason I put this in here is I hate it. I hate the idea that they're putting ads in it anyway, and that they're just basically saying pay us more money if you don't want the ads. I understand from a business perspective why they're doing it. I just hate everything about it. But what I hate even more is that they have a dial somewhere and they're like, well,
we're going to turn it up.
Nobody has unsubscribed. And, enough people have said, no one's gotten mad enough about it. So let's turn that dial up a little bit. And we're going to find the sweet spot of just how many ads that we can show them before people start to churn or to cancel. Right. And honestly, I just think that that's the wrong way to go about it. I understand it's the bean counter way to go about it, but it seems like such a terrible way to treat your customers. Like no one forced you to put Prime Video as a benefit of Prime in the first place. You decided to do that, right? You're using Prime Video as a way to keep people paying you for Prime. So now to disassociate that and to start thinking like, well, how far can we turn this dial before people get really mad? And how much more money can we make? But like, again, from a business analyst perspective, I do understand that. I just think it's a crappy way to treat your customers.
Well, it was unfortunate because how it happened, like by paying for Prime annually for all the shipping benefits, you had Amazon Prime Video with no ads forever. And then it's not like they launched a cheaper tier that was ad supported. Like that was how Netflix did it. I believe that's how Disney Plus did it, where you can like pay less than you were paying, but you get ads. Amazon is like, nah, what you were paying, we're going to shove ads into that. And then if you want to pay more, then you can go ad free. And I would almost we've been watching Rings of Power, the series. And for some reason, I expected an Amazon Prime original show not to have ads because that's just how I think about network original shows, like Apple TV Plus original shows, HBO Max original shows. There's just not ads, like Hulu, like Shogun or whatever. There's no ads. But to even shove ads into your like original content, that feels I don't know why, but that feels different to me. Like I understand if you're going to watch a movie on Amazon Prime Video for free, quote unquote, and it's not available anywhere else, so you put some ads in there. I kind of get that because it's like, you're getting to see a movie you would have to pay for elsewhere. But for Amazon Prime Video content, which I would think a streaming service wants to prioritize its own content and try to like make that be a reason that people actually sign up for it. And then to shove ads into that also. And also the ads are much louder than the content. Like we're watching Rings of Power and Galadriel is like, he's talking very softly and saying, the rings. And then it's like, Airbnb. It's like, oh my goodness. Can we not, can we like adjust the volume here? So I don't know. I agree. More ads is not great. And I don't know.
Well,
we don't pay for it.
The problem is that streaming services make more money on the advertising side than they do for having you just pay for the service. And Amazon couldn't introduce a cheaper tier of Prime Video with ads because nobody's paying for. Actually, the last time I said that, someone emailed me and said, actually, there is a tier that you could just pay for Prime Video.
Oh, really?
And then I responded and said, how many people do that? And I didn't get an answer. So the point was, if you're signed up for Amazon Prime, you're not paying anything separately for Prime Video, which means they couldn't introduce a cheaper tier. They weren't going to make Amazon Prime cheaper for people who weren't going to get for people who are going to get the ads. So they had to do it the opposite way, which is to charge more. But this feels exactly like the Verizon story we talked about a couple of weeks ago that I wrote about, where Verizon is just very slowly tightening the screws on anybody that's on an old plan because they want to get you to pay for a higher price plan and to ditch the Disney Plus bundle. And the reason they're doing it is just because they can. Because they can. Right? Who's going to cancel Amazon Prime Video? 0 people, because you're just paying for Amazon Prime and getting it anyway. So I feel like the people looking at the numbers are like, well, nobody canceled Prime because of this. I'm
of
like,
course not. I mean,
right.
I literally would watch nothing on Prime and not cancel it.
I never watch anything on Prime and I don't cancel it because we pay for it for the shipping and the whatever. Like
right,
it's not a thing. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about talking about advertising and paywalls. 2 interesting websites. News came out that CNN is likely going to be adding a paywall. So some articles will be behind a paywall for CNN, which has long been, you just go with whatever CNN article and read it. And also The Verge, Vox Media is the owner of The Verge. Jim Bankoff, he's kind of the owner, and Vox Media, they have like SB Nation, Vox, Eater, all of that. They might be considering a paywall as well for The Verge, which would feel, I almost tweeted at Nilay Patel just to kind of see like, hey, whatever. And he's very careful to say like he has nothing to do with the advertising money side of The Verge, so he can report honestly and not have to do anything about it. I wonder if this would change that dynamic a little bit, or at least kind of, you might not control the ads or speak into the ads that show up on your website, but if people can't read the articles your website is writing unless they pay, I don't know how that changes. But I think it's interesting, more and more websites. And this is also on the heels of last week, iMore, the Apple website, who ran for more than a decade, shut down. You write for a website, Inc.com. Your articles are not behind the paywall. They're just there to read. As a writing journalist, how does this feel? Like, is this inevitable? Are there viable options? Is it just not lucrative enough? Like, what is happening?
Okay. If I don't answer that part of the question, ask me again in just 1 second, because I want to say something about CNN, because I think there's 2 separate things. One, the CNN paywall was reported, I think, first by Brian Stelter, who works at CNN. He's their media reporter. It's happening. And right, like, this is not speculative at this point. The other one was broken by, I think it was Oliver Darcy, who status.news, which is his Substack, I think. And I think he was actually at CNN, or maybe, I don't know. Anyway, but CNN is doing the early stage experimentation, where essentially what they do is they have this algorithm running in the background, and they're like, we think this person would pay because of the number of articles and the time on page and all this stuff. So they present them with the paywall, like, hey, no more articles for you unless you pay. Whereas if somebody doesn't read CNN very often, they just maybe click on the thing once, they're probably never going to see this at this point. Okay, this is how publications do this. They use this sort of dynamic thing where they're now, there are publications like the New York Times, which is like you get 3 free articles a month, and then everybody has to pay. That's true for everyone, right? Like, you can try to game that system, and there's certainly ways to do that. But like, that's just, they make their money somewhat on ads, but also from people paying. And that makes sense, because then you used to always have to pay to get the New York Times because someone would bring it to your house, right? So there's that piece. The Verge is interesting because, to my knowledge, no one at The Verge or Vox News has confirmed that this is a thing that they're going to start doing. No. But I do agree that it feels very different with a site like The Verge, which, you've many times talked about how Nilay Patel says they're going to revolutionize the world with blog posts or something like that. And so, like, the idea of a blog post feels very different than the idea of like a news site that you have a paywall for. I guarantee you, though, that there is no way that they would make this decision without the editor-in-chief involved, because this is about as fundamental a change as you can make to the relationship between your readers and the site. And so, yeah.
And Nilay's very bullish about federating and like sharing things across using ActivityPub, which is the engine behind things like Mastodon, and Threads also in the Fediverse, meaning you can see Threads posts on Mastodon and vice versa, an open protocol for social media. That's the promise of ActivityPub, and Nilay has been very bullish about The Verge really experimenting with ActivityPub, some articles going in that way, and people may be able to comment on like articles through Mastodon because they support ActivityPub. And so to go behind a paywall, even for some articles, it seems antithetical. But again, nothing's been confirmed by The Verge. I also think I did not realize, like you just said, that there's some kind of algorithmically driven paywall that these websites are using where, like, will this user pay for this article? That is fascinating to me and feels even worse for some reason. Like, the New York Times model, 3 free articles or pay, that makes sense and I feel like is reasonable. And I always debate, maybe this is the month I start paying for the New York Times, and then at the end of the month I say, no, it's not. But at least I understand that model. But to have the algorithm decide, should we charge this person for this article? That feels strange to me. But
yeah. Well,
would make money, I guess.
Yeah. So the part I wanted to just say about being someone who writes, so Inc. does have a subscription,
right?
Like thing you can pay for it, and they do have a paywall. It's just I don't know the details of how that all works, but there is like some degree of a paywall, whatever. As someone who writes for a living, the important piece there is the for a living part. Like someone has to be making money for this to happen.
Fair.
And
Yes.
the problem is, if you look at the last 5 to 10 years, every referral source has essentially said, why would we send traffic to this random place? We want Facebook, Meta, Instagram, whatever, Google. They don't actually care if someone is looking for information about sending you to the site where the information is. They just want to give you the information so you stay on their site. And so it is very, in order to have an ad supported business, you have to have a stream of referral traffic coming to your site that you can then show ads to. And as that starts to go down and you've built a business based on that, you have to come up with something else. And it is reasonable to say to people, if you are enjoying this content and you would like us to keep making it, you're going to have to pay us for that, right? Because that's just sort of like the way the math works out. And so the problem is every site that isn't like the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal that started with a paywall and started with a subscription business is having to make a shift. And it feels to customers and to readers like you're changing the agreement that we had, which is that your stuff was available. I could read it whenever I want. And if you just think about the fan base and the sort of the affection that fan base has for a site like The Verge is based on this connection. It's like, you're making a thing. We love that thing. We will come and read it at your site. And now all of a sudden it's like, wait, do you not want us to come and read it unless I pay you? It's just a weird thing.
I also feel, I wish everybody should just get back into RSS, but then also news publications have to actually support that, which right now The Verge does. I'd be curious if they would continue supporting that if they put things behind a paywall. I would imagine they would not. But, I feel like will there be a time where just quality information, there's something that needs to be accessible, right? At least somewhere. And sometimes I feel weird, Mark Gurman, he writes at Bloomberg. You can either pay for the Bloomberg subscription to read his articles. You can get his newsletter, which he has some of the news there, or you can just read what he has written basically on 9 to 5 Mac and Mac Rumors and just, kind of see the information there. Sometimes it feels that feels a little strange to me. And sometimes I see people tweet about news from a Mark Gurman article and they'll say at the very bottom, hyphen Mark Gurman. Sometimes they'll tag him, sometimes not. And then Mark Gurman will come in and reply and be like, yeah, I reported on this in the Bloomberg. Here's the link. And it's like, well, but if I go to that link, I can't read it. It just feels weird to me sometimes, when there's this information that is being it's not hearsay reported on, but it is being second or third degree level down reported on, but the original source is shrouded. And so someone like me, who's just an average person, I can't actually read it. I mean, I can pay for it, but if you paid for the New York Times, the Wall Street Journal, Bloomberg, you pay for all these things, The Verge, CNN, people are not going to pay for all of these, and maybe that's what Apple News Plus is trying to do. But I don't know. I have unfinished thoughts about it, but it doesn't feel like a great time. I don't know for some of that stuff.
It is interesting that there's literally an entire ecosystem just completely built on writing about Mark Gurman's stories at Bloomberg so that you don't have to pay for the paywall. And it's interesting, the amount of most of these are not enormous publications, right? But they're sites you and I read on a regular basis.
Right.
But they are essentially siphoning value off of the work that is being done somewhere else because they know that there's a large amount of people who will not pay the 30. Like Bloomberg's expensive. Like, let's just be honest, right?
Yes.
They will not pay they got to pay Mark Gurman's salary. Like but these people will not pay $40 a month for like 6 articles a month about like the Apple rumors. So there is an entire cottage industry of sites that are just, they're not entirely dedicated to that, but you're right. If I see that Mark Gurman has written about something, I know that I don't have to pay for Bloomberg because at least 3 sites that you and I could both name right now will write about the story constantly. And so
I literally did it on this podcast with the Financial Times article where I couldn't see it, and so I went to the Ars Technica one, which, I don't know. I don't know how to feel about it.
Yeah,
but
I think it's tough because it's hard when things that we've always had were free.
Right.
Now we have to pay for them, right? This is it. It's kind of like the opposite of the Amazon thing, right? Where they're adding ads. The video ad thing is such a lucrative business. Unfortunately for websites,
right,
it's not a lucrative business anymore because of the referral traffic drying up. And so it's like, I'd rather have 100,000 readers and have them pay us for that as opposed to 10 million and collect pennies per impression.
Right. And it is, there was like the golden age of streaming where you could cut cable and pay $10 a month and get all the stuff that you got for cable. And now we're at a place where now streaming is just cable. Like you're just paying that much a month, probably for less content or less content you actually want to watch. And I don't know, it feels like maybe this is a similar time where there was like, I don't know, just more and more paywalls going up.
And not only that, they're literally bundling together. The independent streaming services are literally creating bundles and saying, here you go. Yeah. It's like, haven't we done this before?
Yes. So for Inc.com, like me paying a subscription, because your articles are not paywalled, what is that for?
So I don't know how the paywall works. I'm happy to ask somebody, but I do know that it's not, it's like, I don't know. I mean, I'd have to find out. I am ignorant about how, you can actually pay for the print magazine. Like you could pay us for the print magazine, but there is a digital subscription. And as far as I know, I'm doing a terrible job. And I know that my editor listens to this. So I feel like I should have been more prepared for this.
I cut all this out.
No, it's okay. She'll send me a Slack message and she'll just be like, this is the answer. And I'll be like, that's fine. I'll tell our people, but there is a digital subscription, right? Okay, here we go. It's $1 for 3 months, and then it renews at $19 for a year. And what you get is you get unlimited access to the digital issues. I think, and I don't know if this is true, 100% true, so forgive me for saying this wrong. I think that there is a limit to the number of free articles that you can read on Inc.com in a month. I think it resets. Again, I don't know the specifics of that, but that's actually not, in my mind, a very unreasonable thing because it accommodates the casual user who then might come back and be like, this is really good. Okay, now I'll pay for it. But if you're a dedicated reader, I don't think $20 a year is a difficult thing to pay for.
That's the best news pricing I've heard because everything else is $30, $40 a month.
Yeah, exactly. So
yeah, that's a great deal. Inc.com. All right, I want to hear about your self-driving test, but there's 3 articles here. This is the part of the show where I asked Jason, why don't you tell me about this?
Okay, we're going to do this real quick because we don't have a lot of time. The first one is, I don't know if you've been paying attention, but like WordPress is the CMS that basically, I don't know, 89, every website is basically based on WordPress. And there's this really weird fight going on right now. WordPress is like, there's an open source part of it, which is like the code that powers WordPress. But then there are all these places where you can pay for like hosting with WordPress. And so there's like WordPress.org and WordPress.com and Automatic, which owns WordPress.com and is also like the primary steward of the WordPress like project.
Right.
And then there are all these other things like, so recently Matt Mullenweg, who is the like CEO of Automatic, which also owns Pocket Casts, maybe?
They used to. I don't know if they still do.
And like Medium, I don't know. They own a bunch of things. It's just sort of this strange conglomeration. Maybe it's, I don't know. Tumblr, I don't know. Even anyway. So
You're
like
just saying words
I'm
now.
just saying things that I don't know who owns them, and I think that it's Automatic. If there's stuff out there that you're not sure who owns it, it's probably Automatic. And he was at a conference for WP Engine, and he stood on stage and he called WP Engine a cancer on WordPress. Like at their event, he said this thing, and his argument was like they don't contribute back to the project, right? There's like an agreement that if you're using the license, you're supposed to contribute certain number of hours to like development for the greater project. And he's saying that they're spending not that. I think that like the statistic was something like Automatic devotes like 4,000 hours a week to WordPress, whereas WP Engine was like devoting like 30 hours a week or something. I don't even know. And so now WP Engine is suing them and basically saying you're trying to extort us. You're abusing your position. And the whole thing is just so bizarre. I don't know what spurred this right now. I don't know what the motivation here is. Like, I don't know Matt Mullenweg, but I do actually know people who do know him. And most of them are like, this is weird. Like, I don't know what's happening right now. So bizarre. Yeah, it's just bizarre. You
were right. Pocket Cast is still owned by Automatic, as is WooCommerce, Simple Note, Gravatar, like the profile image thing. Like, they own a lot of stuff. So,
Beeper.
Yeah,
they bought Beeper. Remember Beeper,
right.
Which was like the service where you're supposed to be able to get your messages on Android, or your iMessages on Android. Like Tumblr. I was right. They do own Tumblr. Thank you very much.
They do own Tumblr, yeah.
I wasn't just saying words. I was saying some right words.
Tumblr, Day One, Pocket Cast, CloudUp, yeah, Jetpack. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff under that umbrella. It's interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. And then also, Epic is suing Google again.
Yeah, cool. I think that they just paid a lot of money on their retainer for the lawyers and thought, well, let's just use some and see who else we could sue. Because they beat Google once, right? They beat them. Right. And now they're basically suing because they're saying that Samsung and Google have sort of colluded because Samsung has this feature called Auto Blocker, which essentially prevents you from downloading unauthorized software on your device, and they've turned that on by default, which it wasn't the case in the past. So like if you wanted to download a third-party app store, you can't, because Samsung has enabled this feature that will say you can't download malware. And so they're making it harder to do this thing that Google has, like, in theory on Android you've always been able to do that. And right. So they're essentially suing the two of them for colluding to make it harder to keep app stores off of the Samsung devices, which on Android, Samsung is the dominant market. So
yeah. And then finally, the very exciting news: Microsoft. This is
the best news all day.
All right, you tell me what is.
No, I'm just so all right. Like, the thing we all hate is that all of this stuff that you used to just be able to buy, you now have to pay a subscription for. Photoshop, right? Also, Microsoft Office. You used to just buy a box and it had Microsoft Office in it, and you could use it until like your computer would no longer run that software anymore. Right. Then you had to pay money. Like, most people probably pay $25 a month if you want access to like Word and PowerPoint and whatever. Now you can just Office 2024. You can just buy it. It's like $150. It just includes
$150 doesn't include Outlook. If you want Outlook and commercial use rights, $250 one time, but you do not get feature updates. Which I guess that's the trade-off. You know, so okay, there you go.
But I mean, that would cost. That's like even $250 is less than it costs you for a year of just paying for Windows 360 or Microsoft 365.
That's true. That is true. So, well, yeah. I won't be buying it, but there you go.
Me either.
You might know.
I would buy Photoshop, or like I would pay if I could pay $1,500 for everything that's in the Creative Cloud. Just pay for it and just like use it. I'd do that in a heartbeat.
But no updates.
Run it till it dies. What are they updating?
I mean, Lightroom, the denoise AI features, Photoshop with the generative features. Like, that's still just in beta now. I think you wouldn't get any of that stuff.
I mean, that's a fair point, but I just, it's like, well, I guess I was going to say, it's like my TV. I want my TV to just keep working the way it works when I bought it.
Yeah, but you want the Apple TV to keep getting updates. Yeah, which then you just buy once.
But the Apple TV is software. I don't think of my TV as software. I just want the TV to work exactly the way it works. I disconnect. My TV is not even connected to the internet. I turn that thing off. It's the first thing I do, and if there isn't a setting, I will crack the thing open and find the Wi-Fi antenna and take it out.
We had an old TV die once because my son actually threw something at the screen. He was 2 years old.
So it didn't die. It was murdered.
It was murdered. But we totally took it apart, and that was kind of fun. It's like, you see all the computer stuff in there. Used to do that as a kid. All right. I actually snuck one last thing in here. We talk about Christian Sea League and the Juno app and how it's going away, but I mentioned many episodes ago, we want to support developers making good apps from our community, so you can mention us there. But I do want to mention there was a new app, Croissant, came out, which is an awesome cross-posting app that you can go to Mastodon, Blue Sky, and Threads at the same time. It's an app from Ben McCarthy and Aaron Vay. And yeah, Croissant. So if you want something, if you're really into the Fediverse, I still have Blue Sky on my phone, but I haven't been posting on it. So I'm thinking about maybe start again just because it's easier to cross-post. Croissant. It's a great app. Yeah. There you go. Put the Mac Stories article in there and you can get the link.
Good stuff.
From there. All right. You did a full self-driving. I can't believe you put full self-driving in the headline of your article because you don't believe that exists.
I mean, that is what they call it. That is the name of the feature.
This is part of the saga. You have to go listen to our bonus episodes because Jason's Tesla's been in repair. Right?
I put a picture of it in there. Yeah. So yeah, the super short version of it is my Tesla is missing a wheel, and so finally I was able to convince the people who are going to pay to fix it to let me just take it to Tesla, please, because the high voltage battery started to die, and so that was bad. And so Tesla just gave me a Model 3 to drive. They're like, boom, here you go, just take a Model 3. It's not that Model 3. It's actually red, but whatever. And so they were like, here you go. Just take it. Yep. Bring it back when we're done. We'll just call you or we'll just send you a message in the app when your thing's done. You just have to agree to bring this thing back. It just instantly shows up in my app just like my other one. It only has the only weird thing for me is it only has the Bluetooth phone key, which means I have no key to this car. So if I lose my phone,
key cards?
Nope, the loaner doesn't. It's just they add it to your app, and so it just has the phone key. But I got in it the first time, and I'm like, this has full self-driving. We're going to try this, and I had to drive to Chicago last weekend, and so I thought, let's give this a shot. And the short version of the story is full self-driving is very cool, but it is not very good. It is not. Really? It is not very good at all. It is. So the first thing I did was I drove from the high school that our kids attend. This was after a football game, and I drove it basically home, and it did fine. It stopped at the stop signs. I waited for traffic to clear. It pulled onto the thing. It followed the speed limit. The only hiccup on that drive was I came to a traffic circle. And, there's a thing about human intuition. Driving is a lot of feel. There's a lot of feel involved. You don't really think about it. But if you're driving on a road that's 45 and there's a traffic circle, you have to slow down, right? You cannot take there's no traffic circle you can take at 45 miles an hour. And the Tesla doesn't realize that until it's very late in the process. And so there was a lot of hard braking when we got to that traffic circle. It did it, and it navigated the traffic circle, and it went out the right side, which, to be fair, is actually more successful than a lot of humans because humans do not understand. Do you have traffic circles in Florida, anywhere?
We have 2 or 3
in the whole state. It's a big state. Okay. Well, there are 2 to 3 on the way from here to the high school where my kids go to school. So it did navigate it, but it's one of those things where I think that the cameras, they're not looking far enough ahead and preparing for what's going to happen. They're dealing with things in such a shorter response time that oftentimes those responses are wow, traffic circle, let's slow down because we can't take this at 45 miles an hour kind of a thing. I'm what would it do if and you maybe, I don't know if you've experienced this, but then the other thing is it'll sometimes think that there's a car coming into your lane and it's boom, it's such a sudden thing. I'm no, that car's fine. They just drifted. They're just not paying attention. It'll be okay. I don't need you to slam on the brakes.
I saw a video of someone drove their Model 3 into a cemetery, and then they started people started popping up on the screen because the car thought they were it was
That's terrifying. That is terrifying.
That's I would exit immediately. But anyway.
That's amazing. That is a perfect YouTube or TikTok video. But so I drove it to Chicago. Yeah. I was let's just see if it can get from my house to Chicago. And it pulled out of the house, pulled out of the neighborhood. It got on the highway in the right place. The route planning is great in a Tesla. I have no beef with that. We can talk about your CarPlay experience at some point. But I actually think that Tesla's software is fine. I don't need CarPlay in my Tesla. I've never wanted CarPlay in my Tesla. I like CarPlay, but it's fine. Yeah. And so it got on the highway. And once we got closer to Chicago, or anywhere where there's construction, or basically anywhere where there's other cars, it starts to do weird things. It'll automatically decide which lane it should be in. It'll automatically change lanes. It'll put the blinker on, and then it'll merge over there, and it does a pretty good job, but then it wants to get back, and it's you got over to pass the semi-truck. The semi-truck still exists. This is not a video game. It didn't just disappear, and it kept trying to get back over way too soon. And there was I think at least a half dozen times I had to, you can cancel it by just hitting the blinker, turning the blinker off. It'll not try to merge. I had to do that at least a half dozen times. There was another time where
so you can cancel the merge but not turn off the self-driving.
Yeah, so it turns on the blinker in advance of it getting ready to merge.
Oh, I see.
Or to
so you
change
know when
lanes.
it's going to change.
So
It's
you
not-
know you have about 2 seconds. And the first time I waited, I'm like, well, this is way too early, but maybe it's just telling me, and it was. But then it started to like it was going to get over, and if you cancel the blinker, it just comes back real quick. So
interesting.
yeah, and then there was a time when we were doing one of those like crossover things. So like you're on the highway on this side, you cross over to the highway on the other side, and both directions are on there because they're doing construction over here. And it was like, it just pretended like that wasn't going to happen. And I'm like, no, legit, we have to go over there. And I had to like take over. And then
you did? Okay.
The last time was weird when it was like around Chicago, crazy, like the one highway splitting into like 3 different things. And we needed to be in the left one. But we were in the right lane. And then all of a sudden 2 more lanes appear to the right because it's
right.
like, and it just like goes straight over because it's like I'm supposed to be in the far right lane because that's what I was driving in. And then it's like the thing realizes, no, actually I have to be all the way over there. And it like tried to cancel itself going over and going back. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to handle this because my kid's in the car and I don't want us either of us to die. The last thing I'll say is the best representation of what I think is wrong with it is it doesn't have like that intuition.
Mm-hmm.
I was in a left turn lane on just like a normal surface road that's like 2 lanes in each direction. So fairly busy road. And I was going to pull into a subway. And I put the destination and I was letting the full self-driving take me there. And it merged over and then it merged over into the turn lane. And it turned the blinker on like it was going to turn in. And the traffic cleared. And the subway is maybe 70 yards from an intersection. And it was clear. Starts to turn. And somebody turns right at the intersection. Okay. Now, as a human, you're like, they're not going to be up to speed. I can still make this turn. You might even make the turn if you shouldn't, right? But like like I have the car freaked out. Like all of a sudden it starts starting. The wheel starts doing this thing like back and forth. Like it's trying to decide, can I go or can I not go? And it's trying to do all this math. And any human would instantly just know, like it's fine. They just are turning. Yes, there is a car over there, but they won't possibly be up to speed in the amount of time it will take me to go over. And so my bottom line is that car cannot fully drive itself. Like it's cool. And I used the summon feature. It was raining the other day, and so I was at a place. There weren't other people around. I don't think I would have done it if there was a lot of people around, but I stood outside the place. I hit the summon. You hold the thing down after it figures out where you are, and it just drives itself right up in front of you. That's great, but like it was going 6 miles an hour. Like it's fine.
The summon feature looks cool. So to cancel full self-driving, like do you just tap the brake and then all of a sudden it disengages? Or
if you tap the brake, or you can also like the stalk push it back up. So it's the gear shifter, I guess you would call it, on the right hand side. If you pull it all the way down, it'll do it. And then if you can either push the brake or you could take control of the steering wheel, which you have to kind of fight against it if you're going to do that. But any of those things, if it senses like human intervening, it will stop.
Okay.
But it is. Then it'll ask you autopilot. I think it says autopilot. Maybe it says full self-driving disengaged. What happened? And it wants you to tell it. And it'll like you hold down the thing and you can talk to it, which is actually a bad. I understand that the feedback loop has to be immediate because it can't just ask you at the end of the trip what were the 7 reasons that you disengaged. But if you just tried to kill me by merging me into a semi-truck, this is not the time to ask me what happened. I think you're muted.
So, in times when it was like just doing its thing, like you're on the highway or whatever, and it's fine. What is it like? Are your hands still on the wheel? Did you eventually like stop doing that?
Yeah, for a while I was just sitting there. So in full self-driving mode, it uses an internal facing camera to make sure you're still paying attention, but you do not have to keep your hands on the wheel. But it does require you to continue paying attention to the road and the traffic and the whatever's going on. There's 3 levels. There's like the aware cruise control, which just keeps you going the same speed and distance. That's one thing. You have to keep your hands on the wheel for that, obviously, because it's not controlling. There's the auto steer, which is the middle one, which is essentially what my Tesla has. They don't call it auto steer on mine. It's just called autopilot, where it'll keep you in your lane. And that one will change lanes for you if you hit the blinker. So if I hit the left blinker, it'll just go over, right? That one you have to keep your hands on the wheel. And if you don't, it'll be like, put your hands back on the wheel. It'll like flash at you and stuff. But with the full self-driving, as far as I could tell, the only requirement is it has to be able to tell that you're still paying attention to the road. So you couldn't like read a book.
So if you look down at your phone and stuff, like what does it do?
If you do that, for any length of time, or if it senses you're distracted, it'll just put up a thing on the screen with little, like a little warning that says, please pay attention to the road. And if you didn't do it, if you didn't pay attention to the road, I believe what will happen is eventually it'll say like, I don't think it'll disengage. I think what it will do is like safely navigate you over to the side and like stop.
Just stop. That's fascinating. So when you were on the highway, were there any times when like it was going to switch lanes and there was a car in the lane already, but it was back far enough? Like how close of a car, like how close does it get to other cars when changing lanes, or does it wait till it has like a ton of room?
I am a fairly, I don't want to say aggressive because that doesn't feel like the right word, but I'm a fairly like, I'll merge over. Like I know I'm going fast enough that I'm merging relatively closely, but I'm not going to merge in front of you and stop. Right?
Sure.
The Tesla will like its calculation of when it's soon enough to merge over is way more aggressive than mine.
Really?
I'm like, that guy's going to be ticked. like that. I'm
like
glad
almost verging on cutting off kind of thing.
It's probably. Maybe it felt quick, more like that than it really was. But to me, I'm like, yeah, I just cut that person off.
Does it accelerate to kind of make space as it's merging?
Yeah, it actually does a pretty good job of that. It actually does.
Okay.
It senses the speed of the traffic in the lane you're going to, and it won't go over whatever you said is the max. So like if the speed limit's 70 and you say I'll go 74, it won't go over 74, but it will match the speed that it senses in the next lane. And then if you're driving in the, like let's say you're driving in the passing lane, but you just are there and other traffic comes up behind you, it must be sensing that because it'll say merging out of passing lane. Like and merge you back. So it actually, the lane changing, generally speaking, except for when it tries to smash you into it. No, except for when it tries to merge back too soon. Like the mechanics of that, like there was a time when I was trying to, when it wanted me to go to the left and a vehicle, like a big old Escalade, suddenly decided to merge to the right. Not quite occupying the same space, but pretty close. And the Tesla actually handled that pretty well because it got all the way over and it was able to slow down quickly enough to avoid any kind of an accident. So like that part of it was somewhat impressive. It was not enjoyable or comfortable, but in that it did the, like what it needed to do, which is it's very good at abrupt braking. Let me put it that way.
I imagine the algorithm's tweaked to favor
it's
that.
Like, stop now.
Stop the car. That's fascinating. I would love to try it. The summon feature is cool. My year Tesla Model S has it doesn't even self windshield. You know, you gotta turn on those windshield wipers. No, it actually does that. It does the windshield wipers automatically. But all right, last question. We want to get to our bonus episode. I want to talk about camera control and about what was the other thing we were talking about? Oh, charging my car.
Yeah, let's talk about that.
What was the other thing? There was two topics. It
was the space above the dock, but you already talked about it.
Oh yeah, okay. So we'll talk about. All right, I'll save it. But that's fascinating. And CarPlay in my car. That's what I was talking about.
Yeah,
So
okay.
The charge. Let me ask you now. Have you ever forgotten to charge your Tesla overnight? And like, what do you do in that situation?
I have actually forgotten to charge my car overnight, but I mean, I have a level 2 charger in the garage, and so as long as I am not driving a long way, like it's never really been a problem. I have free supercharging on mine, and there's a couple superchargers around here. So if I was like, I have to go to the airport, I could probably like figure that out in enough time to be like, okay, let me stop at the supercharger on the way for 15 minutes. That's one thing I loved about this Model 3 is it charges way faster than my Model S.
Really?
Because my Model S as a 2018, I believe that it'll work on the version 2 and the version 3, but it'll only get about 178 kilowatts on the version 3s, and the version 2s are limited to 150. And so the fastest I've ever seen mine charge is like 178 kilowatts. This thing will charge at 250. Like it is just like we stopped for 20 minutes and went from like 14% to like 70. I was like, what is happening? That's
amazing.
What is happening?
Cool.
That was great. I'm jealous of the people who have more recent model year, especially the Model 3s and the Model Ys, I think charge the fastest. I'm like, ooh, that is nice. Now, the compromise is this has pretty good range, but mine still has a bigger battery. Well, right now it has no battery, but when it gets fixed, it'll have a bigger battery that will have better range. So
gotcha. Yeah, I actually forgot to charge it one night. I was driving multiple trips, and so I did a supercharger for the first time for me, and that is pretty fun. Like just to see how fast it charges, and like Just sit there and watch something on the little screen. It's
plug it in and let it rip. So yeah, I mean, I generally am pretty good about it. And in fact, actually, my wife is very good about it. She's like, "Did you remember to plug in the car? Do you need to plug in the car?" So yeah.
I actually put a widget in one of my stacks because Tesla has a widget and you could see in the widget if it's charging.
Yep.
So I just need to create a reminder nightly that says like, check to see if it's charging. And most of the time it is. But anyway, all right, well, let's talk about camera control in a bonus episode. If you want to listen to the bonus episode, you can support the show directly in Apple Podcasts or go to primarytech.fm. Click bonus episodes and support us there. $5 a month, $50 a year. You get every bonus episode, the whole back catalog, and ad-free versions of the show. So we appreciate your support there. And if not, you could just leave us a 5-star rating and review in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or Pocket Casts. We appreciate all your support there. You can watch the show at youtube.com/@primarytechshow. And our thanks to Audio Hijack for sponsoring this episode. Again, links to everything down in the show notes. And we'll see you in the bonus episodes. Catch you next time.